Get in the know. Non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
That's right. It is Purple Access, which means it's Judd, it's Chip Scoggins, Star Tribune sports columnist, and of course, Declan Goff, sponsored by both our friends, presenting sponsor of Purple Daily. Now, welcome aboard to our friends at Quick Trip. And also, this episode brought to you by our friends at Livia Weight Control Centers. A couple of years ago, I dropped 40 pounds thanks to the folks at Livia, and they have helped a lot of people who watch this show and Score North drop weight. Look at the guy on the left. Look at the guy on the right. Chipper, that's the same guy. You know what the difference is? 40 pounds down. Livia is going to help you, and right now, their offer is this, 3 months free. So the first 3 months are free. You lose all that weight. You're just getting started. 855-GO-LIVEA, Livia.com, Livia.com, inside or outside the state, because the whole thing can be done virtually. They are going to make you the latest person that they're going to help drop those unwanted pounds. All right, Chip Scoggins, let's get right to it. Chiefs week, coming off a necessary win, not necessarily aesthetically pleasing, but in football, there's not a lot of aesthetically pleasing wins against an overmatched Carolina team and young quarterback Bryce Young. What is your faith that the Vikings can keep this thing close against the Chiefs at home on Sunday?
Yeah, I don't. Well, close. They can. You know, I've been asked a couple times since Sunday, did we learn anything more about the Vikings? I would say resoundingly no. Other than it was nice to see Davenport out there on defense and see that he can be a productive, he can have an impact on the defense. But
yes,
in terms of did they solve any mystery or anything like that, getting a win against a Carolina offense that was beyond pedestrian. Like,
yes,
I understand protecting a young guy, a young quarterback, but that was as vanilla as you're going to see. So no grand statements coming out of that, but I am curious to see, like, this is a fascinating matchup to me to see what Brian Flores does and how he approaches Mahomes, because we saw him, was it 2 weeks ago with Justin Herbert, and they blitzed darn near every play.
Picked him up.
And yeah, and he just, he came back with the quick hitting stuff and just it really had no effect on him. So what's the strategy with Mahomes? Because he will burn you if you're too aggressive against him. I mean, it's not going to get him rattled. So, but if you don't try to, do something and mix it up, then he's going to pick you apart that way. So I don't know, but I am curious to see what Flores comes up with to try to slow him down.
His tight end in Kelsey obviously is great.
Yeah.
His wide receivers aren't great. So the running game with Pacheco, who's just been a revelation as a seventh-round pick. So it is interesting. It's, it's the one thing I will say is it's not the Tyreek Hill Chiefs.
Correct.
Where they were going to just gash you in the vertical game. I think that the Vikings, I'm with you. I'm very curious to see what Flores dials up. Confusing Mahomes is not an option, but he doesn't have the amount of assets to work with that he did previously.
Correct.
And so is there something that you can do from a defensive schematic standpoint to not stop him, but at least allow yourself to get involved in a game where the Vikings offense, and ideally they will, can match a little bit of what the Chiefs are doing?
Yeah, with the Chiefs, it used to be a track meet, right? Okay, you're going to have to score a ton of points because they're going to score fast.
Tyreek Hill,
it's like,
it would have been over.
How are you going to keep up with it? Yeah. Now it's not, the arsenal is not like what it used to be, but still, when you have Kelsey and you have a quarterback that will make any receiver look dangerous. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it does, though. It starts with stopping the run, because if you don't do that, then you have no hope, right?
Yes.
And so we've seen that play out before. So, yeah, it's that offense is not as probably, explosive as it once was, but you still, like, who do you put on Kelsey?
That's my question. Metellus?
That would be my hunch. Right. I mean, he would be the most logical choice, right?
I feel more comfortable with him than Ivan Pace, and Jordan Hicks can't. That's not Jordan Hicks' ballywick.
The Ivan Pace size would be a problem with Kelsey, I think.
I think Metellus is the most, just because of he's not a big dude, but he's not small. And, he's got the instincts of a defensive back. I think Metellus is, and he's really smart player.
And he's a smart player. I mean, Kelsey's going to have going to be the favorable matchup, no matter who's, every game he plays in. So, but yeah, I mean, to me, it really comes down to, can they stop turning the ball over? I mean, you can't keep having 2 turnovers a game and think you're going to win, particularly a pick 6. Like, you can get away with it against Carolina, but as we've seen, you're going to lose against better competition. So, like, and it's O'Connell's tried everything. He's tried talking about it. He's tried threatening playing time. They bought gadgets off the internet. Yep.
Who knows what they bought off that? As the late great Sid Hartman used to say, a lot of stuff on those internets.
A lot of stuff there.
A lot of stuff.
I mean, so I don't know. I mean, it's the interceptions by Cousins. One was just a horrendous play, and then the other one was the Lions' fault. So, but if that continues, they're not going to stay close, because Chiefs are just going to maximize their opportunities if you give more than what they're going to get on their own if you just keep turning the ball over. So that to me is the number one thing about this weekend.
And what really drives you crazy, Chipper, is the turnovers in the red zone, because those aren't fluky. Like, Jefferson extends the ball. That's not a fluke. That's a bad play. The Cousins pick to Osborne. He threw behind him because he was concerned about leading him into the safety. That's a bad throw. The Hawkinson thing, the timing was bad. Like, you can blame it on both of them. The pick 6 is a terrible throw. So, like, these aren't just simple mistakes where it's like, oh, they're all a fluke. No, they have to be cleaned up, to what you're saying.
Those aren't just some turnovers you get just unlucky. Those weren't unlucky. Those are just bad plays. Yep. But think about that, Joe. There's been 4 either at the goal line or in the end zone that have happened. I mean, that happens once a year, normally once a season.
Yep.
And you've had 4 in 4 games. Think about I don't know where they rank in scoring, but think about where they would be without those. I mean, they would be. Let me see. I got it called up here right now. Scoring.
Phil did the math. It's something
16th. Like 16th. Yeah, they're 16th in the league in scoring, which they'd be a top 10 team probably, I assume.
Yes. But to your point again, that has to be fixed. Like, it can't be. It's not a magic. It's all bad luck and it's going to turn itself around. No, those are legitimate dumb mistakes, bad mistakes, bad throws. And, unless they get those fixed quickly, it's going to be done. Now, my personal opinion is this. There's 4 games coming up. And the one break that the Vikings have gotten so far in being 1-3 is they have not played a divisional game yet. So, the next 4 games to me are going to basically say, you know what, you got a chance to be like a wild card team, or hell, if Detroit falls off, which they certainly could, win the division, or they're done, is Kansas City, real tough game at home though. At Chicago, you better win at Chicago.
They're terrible. Yeah.
They're awful. At home to San Fran on a Monday night. Again, real tough game. It's at home. And then at Lambeau. It's my humble opinion that this team needs to go. If this team can go 3-1, and that's a tall order. If this team can go 3-1, they are a 500 team going into their next segment of games. If they go 2-2, I think they're 5-7. So I'm sorry. If they go 3, they're 3-5.
Yeah, 3-5. Yeah.
Math has never been my strong point. But anyway,
3-1 in that stretch is a tall order.
Yes, it's incredibly.
But you got your two hardest games at home.
That's my point.
Yeah, that helps. But man, that San Francisco team looks so good right now. They're just so physical.
But if you can't beat the Niners or Chiefs on your home field, you're not a playoff team.
You're not a championship team. You might be a playoff team, but you're not a championship team.
Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, and I don't even know if you lose to them, it doesn't mean you're totally out. But this is a stretch because you can't. Well, because of the hole they dug, they can't afford to have a game where you're like, and it's dangerous to do this in the NFL, but you can't lose to Chicago. Like you can't go there and lose.
No.
Like that's like you can't have one of those games where it's just like, you can't have a Gophers at Northwestern. You can't have one of those where you just say that's one you cannot lose. So, this is the stretch. This is a stretch where they've got to make up some ground here because of the hole they dug, and I'm curious to see like what kind of because. Judd, the first 3 losses weren't because they were overmatched. It's because they gave the game they couldn't take care of the doggone ball, right? Well, so it wasn't like
especially the Tampa Bay loss and the Chargers loss.
And
like
the Philadelphia one,
a tough team.
They're a better team, okay?
Yeah.
But the other 2, but even then you didn't give yourself a chance, right? You cost yourself. But the other ones were just because you didn't take care of the ball. But now that they have a win and they can take care of the ball, I'm just curious to see what this team looks like if they can play a complete game without turnovers and play a complete game, both offense and defense, like complementary.
Yep.
Like it's hard to know what they are because they just keep turning the ball over. And maybe that's who they are, but those change games so much.
The one encouraging thing that I will say, because I'm with you, Carolina's so bad in my opinion that it's hard to glean a lot. And the Vikings certainly, to go back to the top of the show, played far from a perfect game. The one thing though, and I will say this, this is something that you can certainly work on in the offseason days and in training camp, but it was going to take some time, and we probably didn't allow for it, is the maturation of the run game, which appears to be coming along. I mean, that's a lot of things. That's the offensive line. It looks like Josh Oliver is becoming very comfortable in his role, which is really as an extra O-lineman. Madison and Akers play an important role, but I mean, the run game goes so far beyond the guy who is handed the football, assuming he does not fumble. But that's the one thing that I will say, and the past 2 games have started to show it, is the difference between the 2022 Vikings, who played a lot of 11 personnel and relied on the pass, and 2023, which wants to establish the run, is it does look like that element is coming along, and it'll be very interesting to see if it starts to work in sync again, especially as a complement to the pass game, what that can do in the next, again, 4 games or so.
Yeah, and use the caveat against Carolina because how good are they? But Madison ran the ball well, and I like what Akers brought him. I mean, it's only 5 carries, but he looked like he's a guy who deserves more carries, and I'm curious to see what that breakdown is. He gets more comfortable with the offense, which he should have a pretty good familiarity with it, right? Just because of the coaching and his relationship with him, history, but. I don't think it's even the roles, those 2, Akers and Madison, but would it be 60-40 in terms of the carry split?
Yes, and it's very
ideally
different
is that what they're trending? Yeah, is that what they're trending?
It's not a bell cow
60-40?
thing. Yeah.
No, and it shouldn't be.
No, and I think that the goal was, I think going into training camp, the goal was to try to see if Wongwu at the time or Ty Chandler could be the secondary guy, and Kane got hurt and has not been seen since. And Chandler, I think it's blocking. They don't trust him.
Yeah. But do you think even with those 2, it would have been a 60-40 split? If I'm just throwing that number out, or did it have to take someone like Akers for them to feel like that's what they had?
I think the goal going into training camp was for it to be a split. Now, it might have been 70-30, but I think the goal, I keep going back to when Chandler had that real good first preseason game against the Seahawks, and we were all like, oh, wow, that's a hell of a game. And, KOC walked back his comments, but he immediately put the brakes on it. And I said to myself, there's something about this guy, and it has to be like blocking, that they don't trust or like. And so I think they probably misjudged that. But, the run game, because we watched Peterson and Cook for so long, we still think of the run game as one guy. You hand him the ball. But as you know, in this sport, the run game is a multifaceted. It starts up front, and then you've got more blockers and your tight ends, and so I think that this is a maturation situation, which will help this team because it's going to make on a weekly basis. And Kirk is good here. Play action more dangerous.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they finished 28th in the league last year in number of carries, and I wonder if because O'Connell talked all offseason about efficient, like they had too many inefficient runs, the negative ones and the ones that were stopped at the line. I don't know if efficient means more or just the same number and be better at it, right? I mean, are they going to be a top 20 team in carries? I still don't see it.
No, probably not. But I do think it means more to a certain degree because I don't think that they would forego as playing as much, and I'm guessing the statistics prove this out, as much 11 personnel to go to 12. Sure. But and I just think it's extremely important, especially with this team, to at least have the threat of being multidimensional. And look, I mean, Cook had some nice runs, but we talked about this. He lost a lot of yards, and in watching what he's done or has not done with the Jets, he's 28. Unfortunately, I think it's over for him.
Yeah, he's hit the wall. Yeah. No, and you don't want to, because you said it right, the play action with Kirk, that's where you're really going to be able to open that thing up and get your shots in the matchups that you want. And they don't go out and get Josh Oliver if they're not intending. Maybe, they want to be more efficient, but that signals to me that you want to run the ball more than you have. So, so that was encouraging. The fact that Madison, you could tell the way he ran Sunday, he was not going to fumble. He had both arms on the ball.
Pressure points were taken care of, Chip Scott.
That's right. He had that. He had
Take
both
care of those
arms
pressure
on
points.
It. I know. And so like that was encouraging to me. If I had to look at that game and say what do you take from it? I think the way they run the ball, Akers availability, Davenport showing up and having an impact, but also seeing Harrison being used the way he's supposed to be used. And it's funny, I sat down with him on the day training camp opened, and he had his press conference, and then I went outside and had a one-on-one with him, and I could just tell, and I've known him since he's been here, and have heard a good read on him, and I could tell he was super excited to play in Flores' defense. Like he saw, it's the reason why he came back and took a pay cut. It's like, because the idea of what Flores could do to him, he said, no disrespect to Donatel, I just was, what I do is just not a fit for his scheme. What I do is a good fit for any Flores' scheme. So he was like really excited about what the potential he could be in it. And I think the first few weeks, I think he played okay, right? I mean, we didn't. He
talked about a post game.
He didn't really notice him a lot.
What was his quote in Carolina post game? I think he said something along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing here, I see myself as a difference maker, and in the first 3 games, I wasn't. But in his defense, too, Chipper, so he I believe tied a career high last year with Ed as his DC for picks. He had 5 of them, but it's because he always played that deep shell, which is not his style at all. On Sunday alone, he tied his career high in 1 game with 3 sacks. Career high. I think he's had 3 sacks now in 3 separate years. But anyway, this is such a better use. And you know what? Athletically, he's probably not the same guy. But he's so damn smart and so damn instinctive. And in his defense, it probably is going to and has taken him some time to adjust to this. But where Brian Flores knows Harrison Smith, and to your point about Smith returning, Harrison Smith knows once he does adjust, this scheme is made for smart guys like him, like Metellus.
Well, and that's it. I mean, you saw it Sunday. Like, that was a game plan built around Harrison Smith. You have a rookie quarterback. We're going to use our safety, who's, one of the smartest players in the league, knows, you can move him around, knows how to blitz. And when he blitzes, he typically gets home, right? He's going to make the play. And so
Bryce Young was like, oh my God, no, not again, not me.
But didn't that feel like a game plan built around Harrison and so now you face Mahomes and it's going to be a different game plan, but I wonder how he employs Harrison in this one, because I got to imagine like when Flores sits down every week, he thinks, okay, how do I use Harrison to maximize going against, whatever quarterback it is or whatever offense it is and let him be the most effective. So this it's a really good chess match I think we're going to see.
Oh, it's going to be fantastic. And so here's one thought. I wonder if they are actually going to have Harrison show blitz more and drop off.
And drop. It could be.
Because Mahomes is susceptible to picks. He is susceptible to being picked off.
And I just, if you blitz and you don't affect him, now you're susceptible. So I think we will see that a lot. But I mean, I also think he'll probably bring Harrison, I don't handful of blitzes probably. But it's fascinating to see kind of, Andy Reid and Flores kind of this chess match and how to me specifically, because I just think Harrison is one of those type of players that you can use to your advantage because he can do so many different things,
right,
and do them well,
right. Which is why he shouldn't be deep consistently.
No,
like he's not a traditional safety. That was absolutely stupid. Now the other guy that you brought up from the defensive side of the football at the top of the show, Marcus Davenport, who made a difference. He was very, very effective. But I will say this, dude has to stay on the field now. Like I'm not buying what he was selling until we see it consistently, because that was the knock against him with the Saints. It's not that when he's on the field, he's a bad player. He's not. It's can he consistently be there? And so, you know what? Put together 4 or 5 games, and, against some good opponents now, too. Put together 4 or 5 games like we saw against the Panthers, and I'm buying that you are going to probably get, either here or elsewhere, a multi-year contract after being on a 1-year make good, but you've got to show the consistency.
Well, and that's it. I mean, because I remember seeing him first time in training camp, and you see his size, you're like, what am I missing here? Like, why is this guy
half a sack last year, Chipper?
Yeah, it's like, how is that? Because he's gigantic, and you see his athleticism, you're like, there's something missing. And it's the consistency. It's whether it's injury or just whatever. And you would think, Judd, I mean, this is a contract year. Like if he puts up numbers, there's a big reward coming for him, either here or somewhere else. And so he should be motivated to stay on the field and have that kind of season. So, but if he can't stay on the field, now all of a sudden, when you have Daniil on the other side and him, it looks different to me. It just looks like it's more complete, and you have a better, you just have more opportunities to get guys that are going to get there.
Well, and plus it's a trickle-down effect too, because DJ Wanham on Sunday looked really good. I believe he and Davenport, if I'm not mistaken, both had approximately 45 snaps. When Wanham starts and has to play more, that's just not him. But he had the scoop and score for the touchdown. He had a sack. So like the Wanham-Davenport combination with Davenport probably playing more of a star disruptor role makes DJ or puts DJ into a really good place. When Davenport can't play and now it's DJ and Patrick Jones, to me, the fall off there is substantial because you're asking too much from guys who are probably really nice, more role players.
Well, and that's what you remember when their defensive line, when they were great back with, Jared and Kevin, that was the whole thing when they had depth. It's like guys that would be situational come in there would make their plays because they were fresh, because they, they weren't worn down. Guys that were more, would make more plays in a limited role than they would an expanded role, if that makes sense, because it just fits who they are. So, so I just think it adds to your depth. It adds, everything. So now, but he just has to, continue to do it week after week.
What's your prediction or thought process for this one?
Yeah, I do think he'll be closer than maybe what people might expect. I don't know what the expectation is. I think I still pick the Chiefs, but I don't think it's going to be a runaway by any stretch. I just think being at home, I think their offense. It's turnovers, John. I mean, it's now they have shot themselves in the foot other ways too, and have some lulls, but it's mostly turnovers that have really held them back. So I think it's going to be closer than definitely a one-score game. Could be a field goal game, but I would pick the Chiefs.
If this makes sense, Chipper, the defense can't embarrass itself. Like it's going to have to be, as we discussed, a good game plan, and it's going to have to be a solid effort. But if the Vikings are going to win this game, I think it's going to have to be the offense that wins it.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And I just feel like that we probably would say that every week because I just still think personnel-wise, the defense has some deficiency there that it's going to be hard to overcome.
They do.
You can scheme and do all these things, but it's still I don't think their talent's where they want it to be yet. So I still feel like it's going to be the offenses. They're going to have to put up numbers and not turn the ball over and be able to match it.
I hope that Flores comes back in 2024 because I'd really like to see him because I do think he's very good. I'd really like to see him in year 2, personnel-wise. In his time, I think he spent 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, as head coach of the Dolphins. His first year defensively was rough, and then year 2 they took off. I would really like to see him get more of his, not just scheme installed, but his personnel as well.
Because he has a big say in that.
Yep, because I think this thing could take a big step defensively. But look, this is an offense first team. They've got Kirk Cousins. They've got Jefferson. I don't think it's too much to say, you know what? You're at home. To a certain degree, go outscore the Chiefs. I know it's tough, but it can be done. And from O'Connell on down, you are now seen as an offensive first team. You're 1-3. You've been a huge disappointment at home. If you're going to build off the Carolina win, prove it by actually going out there and scoring points. And then to what you're talking about, don't throw picks and don't fumble the football.
Well, especially because every other week, but this week, you say you have the best player on the field. Now the Chiefs can say that because they have Mahomes, but you have the second best or third. You have a top 5 player.
Yes,
in the NFL, and Jefferson, the way he's playing right now, you just feel like he's going to put up big numbers every game, right?
Well, how about the Carolina game, Chipper? It's like it was ho-hum, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah,
he didn't get to 100 yards. It's the expectations of this kid are just crazy. Phenomenal.
But don't you just feel like no matter who they play, okay, how are they going to stop him? Like he's going to put up numbers, right? It's just, or the other component is going to, pull her in. But I just feel like when he's at home and he's dialed in, and he's going to be super motivated and emotional for this game because you're playing a huge team, and so I think he's going to have a big game, just like I think he's going to have that every week.
Yes, and the question is, what can they do to scheme him open? Can they use the other question I have, and I know blocking-wise he's not good yet, but can they find a way to employ Addison enough to create the threat? Because I'm sorry, KJ Osborne just doesn't do that. KJ Osborne is not the threat. Addison is an actual vertical threat that should free up Jefferson. But I think Chipper, I think against Carolina, and he missed a terrible block that almost got Justin killed.
On the screen,
on the screen. I think he only was in for like 28 snaps, but I guess my question is this.
How many did they have for the game, though? There wasn't that many, was there?
No, but I mean, I think, if I'm not mistaken, KJ was in for like 10 or 12 more.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just saying I want, the goal is for Jordan to play more.
Yeah, well, I don't know if the whiff on the block on the screen had something to do with it, or
I'm guessing it did because he damn near got him killed.
Yeah, you can't have your star player, somebody have a free run at him because you didn't block him like that.
Hey, you almost got block knocked off.
Yeah, I mean, Imagine how many times that was
shown,
reviewed in the film. Yeah, with
and
Addison.
Keenan McCardle, I'm sure. I'm sure he was very nice. I'm sure there were no swear words. Zero swear words.
But yeah, but Addison, I mean, we've seen his speed, man. He can fly and he's good.
Yes.
So you want to see him get involved to take some of that pressure off JJ too.
Absolutely. Who do the Vols have on Saturday?
We got the bye week this week.
Oh, but you still got the pullover on, right?
I still represent even on bye weeks. Bye weeks we don't take
unbelievable. No one's a bigger fan.
We're self scouting this week.
That's all you can do. All right, Chip Scoggins.
All right, brother.
See you on Sunday. Bye.
See you guys.